A reading from the Gospel of Luke. There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test Jesus and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said in reply, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he lifted him up on his own animal and took him to an inn and cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Most of us probably have heard various homilies on the parable of the Good Samaritan, so we should probably have heard how the Samaritans were very much at odds with mainstream Jews in the first century. But it's fair to say that we don't know exactly how much it would have offended people when Jesus first used Samaritans as an example of a good person in the parable. As soon as a Samaritan is mentioned, it would immediately perk up the listener with all kinds of negative imagery. However, we weren't there in the first century, so this offensive feeling is lost to us over 2,000 years later. So what if we were to try and bring this parable up to the 21st century? As a result, here's a story which should give a sense of how offensive it might have felt to those Jews in the first century. A woman was robbed minutes after leaving a KeyBank ATM. Pointing a gun at her, they kicked and punched her several times until she was on the ground, helpless and unable to move. As she was lying on the ground, Father Dan Brown happened to be walking by, but he walked on the other side of the road. Minutes later, Deacon Clive Cussler also was walking by, but after seeing her, he averts his eyes, pretending to not see her lying on the ground. He too walks on the opposite sidewalk. Some time after that, renowned and well-known new atheist Richard Dawkins sees her before passing her by, and he stops to help her. Having a first aid kit on him, he cleans some of her cuts and bruises and puts bandages on her. And then he picks her up and takes her to a nearby hospital. Furthermore, he gives the nurse attending to the woman some money and his cell phone number and tells her to call him if more money is needed to take care of her, in which he will read off his credit card number over the phone. He also says that he will come back to the hospital to check on her following his talk at a convention on Darwin's theory of evolution at a hall just down the road. Who was the neighbor to this woman? The new atheist Richard Dawkins, of course. So, you should go out and do the same.